What's your name? I'd like to introduce everyone to my lovely wife, Kim Palmer. And this is your host, Gavin Palmer, trying to do new things in a world that is always changing and seems to be changing faster and faster. I was just telling Kim that I like to try and do things. I like to try and experiment with new ways of doing things. And she was telling me that I have essentially invited her to record things and put them on the internet. And I've done this a few times. And Kim is hesitant. And I imagine she is hesitant because doing things you've never done before can be difficult, especially if you are a shy person, an introvert. But one thing Kim and I did the other day is we looked at this idea of the metaverse, the Facebook, and told you that I feel like we already do. And so when I go off on the internet and listen to different people or talk to people and create conversations, that is a way of me participating which doesn't include Kim. And so that's a dangerous territory. And I imagine that, well, you want to share your thoughts on that, Kim? Why is it dangerous for a spouse to go off on the internet and listen, have these voices in their head and go and communicate with other people and record conversations? What's the danger in doing that? Like, what's the risk?
Well, first I want to say it's 4:46 in the morning, and Gavin woke me up to talk to a device. Anyway,
You're talking to me, and other people can hear you.
let's see. I think it's good for people to have their own hobbies, even if it's a husband and wife. They can do their own things and have their own hobbies and still be have a really good relationship. I think that when you know, join other worlds, whether it's the internet, something on the internet, um, you know, forums or YouTube channels or any kind of social media, or if it's like, you like to hunt or you like to fish. Um, in this world you live in, if your house is a part of the world, then there's a little bit of a connect. Um, so I think it's good for couples to find things that they enjoy doing together. But as far as the having conversations and joining worlds on the internet with other people, I think you have to be careful because, um, especially if your spouse isn't doing it with you, because you can really get absorbed in answering messages and living in that world outside of your family. Does that make sense?
That makes sense to me. So I have a history of going off into other worlds of I would say when Kim and I first got married, we I would play um, video games. I would play, for example, World of Warcraft, and that's another world that you can go into. And so I remember we would agree to a schedule, and so we would plan things out and say, on this day at this time, and on this day at this time, and that way we knew what to expect. And I think sometimes Kim enjoys that because she would do something that she wanted to do, and I would do something I would want to do, and we don't have to do everything together. But I know that that time in our lives is different than now because we're parents now, and a lot of our time is spent being parents. Time is a more precious resource now that we are parents with 3 children. But I went into worlds with books. I can dive into books and become absent, just, or I could be giving like part of my attention to the book and part of my attention to the family. So it is something that I'm grateful that to have Kim help me maintain some kind of balance. It's a good thing. And then I think that brings up the topic of this video I made yesterday that I didn't really share publicly. I was talking about what do you share publicly and what do you not share publicly. And that's kind of like this recording is on the edge of that, of what do you share publicly and what do you not share publicly. Because, Kim and I, our relationship is it's a very private thing. Um, Nobody in the world knows me better than Kim or knows Kim better than me. And so it's a very personal, private relationship. And so there's some things that you share publicly, some things you share privately. And then the question I had asked was, this is kind of the deep thinking part, is, well, are we behaving different now that it's being recorded? And to what degree? How honest are we being? Are we worried about being judged by others? Like, I think that's a big one. This is the topic. I sent just a short video to Randos United. And so Kim doesn't really know what Randos United is. But Randos United, I think they're doing something interesting and good. They are participating in new ways in this new world. And you can have conversations and you can record them and you can send them to an email address in this community, which I've been giving my attention to for a little while, for maybe a year. And then they will share the recording with other people. And so in that recording that I sent, it was just me. And one of the ideas was that sometimes we don't want to share because we worry about being judged. And we worry about being judged because we have been judged in the past in ways that don't seem fair.
Well, as far as sharing goes, I always ask myself, before I share anything, whether it's like a picture or a project for our school, on the internet, social media, why am I doing this? So, why do people share? I think that's a good question. Like, why do you share? I don't know if it's, is it because you want attention and you want people to like your stuff, or is it because you're part of a group that you're trying to teach and learn with, or is it, for your family and friends to see your kids grow up? Like, what is it? And so, the reason why I share stuff on the internet is not really, it's more of in my teaching community. We do homeschool, and so I do a lot of activities with the kids, and I share those activities with other people. It's the main reason I share on the internet. And then some of the stuff that I share on the internet is for our family and friends to see our kids. But I don't share a lot. I'm pretty private.
And Kim,
But why do you share? Why do you want to share all these videos?
that's a good question.
So
but I just wanted to, I want to help kind of support your message and just mention things that I could do to be of better service to Kim. So obviously I think Kim is amazing, and or I wouldn't have married her, and she's just continued to show me how amazing she is over the years. We've been married since 2008, and I've known her since she was like going into ninth grade, and I was going into 11th grade.
I don't even know the years. I don't know
It
that what year that was.
was about year
22.
2001 something. But so Kim is a really good teacher. Like when she went to class, the question I had asked her is like, out of all the people learning to be a teacher in your class, how many of them would you want to be the teacher of your children? And there was only a handful. And so Kim's,
But you could say I was biased though. You might ask that question to other people.
well, you were serious about it. And I can tell you when I went to college, I was not serious. And so obviously people can change. I've become more serious and I've kind of found myself and you know, found my why.
Well, that was my take two college.
Take two. It was your take two. Your first attempt was you didn't
I
really
wasn't
know
as serious.
you didn't know your why. You weren't
Yeah.
as serious, and you saw people training to be teachers who didn't. And this is my words. All of this is my words. It didn't seem like they knew their why. They didn't know why they were there. They weren't. It didn't appear to be serious about it. And some of these people are just right out of high school.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So, like, okay, that's another topic you talk about.
It is. We have a lot of topics we could talk about. And my point,
Maybe
the
people
thing that
should wait to go to college until they know what they want to do. They
maybe,
don't have to go right out of high school if they don't want to.
maybe, but you don't use you don't go to a school and teach to other people's children right now, but you are a
I
teacher. You're
have, but
actually
I don't do that now.
right, but you're teaching our children, and you know how to create lesson plans, and you're really good. And I would say like the reason I think Kim is really good at teaching is because she knows the goal, and the goal she's aware of she has a plan and a goal, and she knows the thing that is trying to be taught, and she knows, and this is key, she's able to get into the mind of the child. She has empathy, and because of that she knows where the child's mind is at and whether they are following along the steps and the path in order to reach that goal of learning what they need to learn. And so she's a really good teacher. And so, and she's creative and puts a lot of work into it. But the but is that she shares it with a small closed network of people that she knows. And so, what I could do is I could help um, review the stuff that goes into the private network and then create kind of a public account where we share things. And that's kind of a plan we've talked about, is trying to share the lesson plans. And the goal of sharing the lesson plans and the things that she has researched and I've contributed to a little bit just with some thoughts and ideas, but mostly it's Kim. The thing that the reason we would share it is so that other parents in a similar situation might benefit. And this is what and Kim didn't like invent these things for the most part. She's doing her research and she's taking the things that she thinks are valuable and bringing it into our classroom. And another thing, we've been teaching our kids since before they were born. So we've been doing homeschool because everybody's doing homeschool whether they realize it or not. So we can go down any of those paths, or we could just drop back up, or pop back up into the idea of why do I share stuff on the internet? Where do you want to go on this conversation? Do you want to talk about college? Do you want to talk about homeschooling? Like in this community, there are people who are interested in trying to be good parents. There's all kinds of topics, and but I can answer the question. I can try to answer the question of why I like to share.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Well, this whole idea has been gaining clarity in my mind because sometimes it's a feeling um, that I want to share. And the feeling has to do with it's based on my own pride and arrogance. I mean, I've been arrogant since I was in second grade telling the teacher she didn't know what she knew. She didn't know what she was talking about. I mean, and I see it in our children. And it's this pride and arrogance, and you have pride and arrogance when you're smart. And the smarter you are, perhaps the more pride and arrogance you have. I mean, you're able to see things that other people can't see, and you can tell that you see things that other people can't see, and you have success, and you win. I mean, I did a lot of that. I did a lot of success and a lot of winning, and then I started to develop empathy, over time, and I started to care about more people. And part of the reason that's at the heart of why I want to share is because I want to teach. And obviously, if anyone who has listened to me knows that I realize that being the teacher is the wrong way of being. You have to be a teacher and a student. So I try to avoid just being the teacher. And that's why I need someone else to talk to. I can't just talk by myself to a camera, because if I do that, I'm just in teacher mode. And the and but I think Kim, at the heart of her question is kind of a thought that I've heard her say that, what are you actually doing? And perhaps when you're talking, you're not actually doing. And I think that's the risk. Um, and I think I've had a breakthrough in this, or I've had a new idea in this territory recently of why we should be talking and why we should be sharing, and we should be sharing on as many platforms as possible. And the idea is that we want to embody the proper way of being by participating in new ways using the internet, such that we become part of the body of all of the people who are trying to do the same thing, and we are teaching and learning from each other. So I embody teaching and learning as a husband and a father with my wife and children. And then by sharing, by watching other people, and and there's a caveat, is being careful who you watch. Be careful with your attention. But by watching other people, getting feedback, and um, sharing content and doing it properly and getting better over time, I mean, the whole world can transform. And that's kind of like why, as part of, I mean, the goal is that we transform toward the good, and that we can each be a part of a transformation process on a larger scale. And that there's a risk in that, and I know it. And the risk is that you have to be giving your time and attention to these relationships that are immediate, right here and right now. So I'm trying to figure out how to balance all that out. That's why I want to record this conversation with you.
Do the people that you have relationships with on the I guess it'd be like Discord. Is that their? Did I say that right?
Yeah, Discord is a place.
Um,
That's the main place that I go to.
do they have? Do these people also like share with Instagram stories or on Facebook? I know some of them have YouTube channels.
I think YouTube and Twitter is most of what I see, and I see some people pointing at Facebook. And if I were going to go look at people who are doing it the best, it'd be like I saw Colton Kirby. he's he's doing Podbean and Twitter and Facebook
Does he
and
do
so,
Instagram stories?
yeah. Well, I haven't looked on his Instagram, but he has. If you look at the description in his videos, he has a link to all of his profiles, and then the people who are doing YouTube really well tend to do that, as they have many, they have a lot of presence on the internet, and then they cross link to their different accounts. The thing that I don't know how much work they put in and how much work it requires to, you know, when you create content, you share it out to, I think Colton does iTunes and Podbean and Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. So it's probably, I mean, one way to do it is you create your content, you try to embed it into like a web page, and then you share that link on all of those other places Oh yeah, Colton is also on Substack. That's where he writes.
I I don't know. I could be old school or I could be biased. I don't know, but I feel like if you're going to constantly share information, like Instagram stories is where I get most of my, that's where most of my community of, homeschool families are. And they share constantly on there things they're doing or things they're learning. And it's like, I don't know, it just seems like you're not really in that world of Instagram stories.
Yeah.
Seems like the people that you hang out with, though, they could really, I don't know, maybe they don't like Instagram stories.
Yeah. The question would be how to do it.
Or maybe they're against Facebook in general.
Well, there's reasons to be against
I know.
Facebook, but
So I don't know. I don't know the
one thing that
why people choose certain. I guess the question is why do people choose social media for certain things?
well, so if you're a content provider, it's probably best to share it as many out as you can. I mean, our work company does,
Mm-hmm.
and then they have tools, which is like they call it central command. It's a command center where all the responses get pulled into the command center, and so you can engage with everyone, all your networks. They don't all that. We're YouTube for the body podcasts, but it'd be good to distribute content in as many networks as possible and be able to respond to um, everyone. And the tool that I help build is, you can even cooperate with a team of people who are doing that if your content is valuable enough. And that's those are some like interesting topics. Is what makes content valuable, and that's one topic. And another topic is, well, what are the things that happen in our lives that we don't share? Like I had that difficult situation with Clover the other day, and I did record it so that you and I could watch it. You might be able to teach me some things on what I could do better, but it's not something that you see people sharing. People don't usually share the hard, challenging times whenever they share.
Well, so I guess it's the idea of the privacy of the child. So like I know a lot of people, a lot of homeschool groups that I follow and families that I follow, they share their activities and they share their things they're learning and doing, but they don't share their kids. So they may like share, you know, I know there was this one lady who was very hesitant to share her child's work because she felt like it was like her invading her privacy. So, you know, it could be that Clover may not want that video posted when she gets older, you know. So it's kind
Right.
of like it's that territory you're deciding what to share and what not to share, and you want to make sure you know, give your kids the respect and the privacy that they deserve, I guess.
Yeah. The
So
other thing is that I feel is that
careful.
if our whole lives were live streamed, there are things that I do that people are going to disagree with me, and sometimes they may be right, and sometimes they may be wrong, and then some people may think I'm just a terrible father, and they may be wrong, right? I don't think I'm a terrible father, but some people I believe will believe that I am a terrible father.
Or I think anything you do, somebody out there will find something wrong with it.
Right. Well, that's the thing is people will, and I'll use Paul. Paul says condemn. You know, people, and that seems to be the wrong move. You should avoid condemning. Maybe you should condemn sometimes, but people will actually condemn your thoughts, and which is even worse. You could maybe condemn my behaviors, but don't condemn my thoughts. So if people are willing to condemn people and their because of their thoughts, then surely they're going to condemn people because of their actions. And we all have different thoughts and different actions. Like spanking, for example, is it's a topic that if you start talking about spanking, there's some people who are gonna they will want to condemn you if you are someone who spanks uh, a child. Obviously, some people may say you can spank your own children, but don't spank other people's children, right? It's like there's
Mm-hmm.
different lines on what you can condemn people for doing. I know that we've seen other kids and at the park that we've wanted to spank.
Well, I guess our pediatrician puts it as it's not the cure all to getting children to behave, but it's just one of your tools in your tool belt, and only save it for instances where it's really serious,
Right.
like if they run out in the street or that kind of thing.
And then if you're getting to that point where you want to spank a child, something's already messed up before that. Like you you have already made mistakes prior to that situation. Um, if you get into a situation where you want to spank the child, now, and I say you, like people in the environment have made mistakes. Part of some of the people are the children, obviously, but also the parents might have done something different to avoid that situation. And if a parent kind of neglects their duties, then that child ends up doing things that are harmful and dangerous.
Like running out on a dock in the middle of the night. Didn't Webb do that?
Run out on a dock in the
Yeah,
middle of the
at
night.
Moon Lake.
Oh, yeah.
A rickety dock that
Yeah.
needed some work.
Yeah, it's like the children,
They could fall through the
they don't,
cracks.
they aren't aware of the dangers and the hazards in general. And that's why they need to learn to listen. They need to learn to trust you. And so the thing is when you spank a child, they will lose some trust in you. They may and start to fear you. And so if the goal is for them to trust you, then you don't want to be beating them all the time.
No,
Right.
it's a hard thing.
But at the same time, you also want them to listen. And if they just ignore you all the time, um, that's a dangerous situation. So there's like obviously the goal is I think the way I put it as, with someone who might be on the spectrum is we want to avoid we want to avoid long-term damage to our children. This is like the uh, trying to avoid damage, just basic approach. And whether it's them running out in the road or drowning or anything like that, you want to avoid that situation. And then you also obviously don't want to create long-term damage with you know, there are parents who shouldn't even be called parents who lose control and then cause harm to their children,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But with that can happen with the mind and the body. And then parents are, there's different situations. So I know my dad was a single dad and he had it harder than than we have it or that I have it. So that I don't think I think the average human, they don't tend to have empathy and they don't tend to um, think about nuances and complexity. Like there literally are people, and maybe even people with high IQs, who think that you know all children are the result of their environment, right? They don't believe there's anything to do with the personality of the child, that they were, and there's differences in the genes, and those people are making mistakes because they just haven't had children and haven't been around children.
When you record conversations, do you take into account how long your conversation is,
Um,
and or you just keep talking?
we can. I probably make the mistake of talking too much and being willing to talk forever.
Yep.
So you think this is a good point to stop and allow other people to join in?
Well, I don't know.
It is. I mean,
What
that's
when?
challenge that we just talked about, and we don't necessarily have the answers, right?
Well, the conversation started out as learning how to navigate what real or in person relationships and um, what do you call them? Digital relationships? What would you call them?
Virtual.
Virtual relationships. And then it ended up with uh, the idea of spanking kids.
Well, I think in general there's a list of challenges that we face, and we can find answers to those challenges. Um, if we try to do it on our own, it's more difficult than if we do it together, like you and I.
Yeah.
And then the hope would be that the technology we have available and the tools we have available allows us to, for example, talk about the challenges we face, um, such that the answers to these challenges, or at least good answers to these challenges, are directed our way. And I, I mean, I'm an expert at software and information technology, and I know that software and information technology can help identify the answers and bring them our way. Um, Obviously, if we were if we were the most brilliant people in the world, we wouldn't be facing any of these challenges, and we'd have all the answers. But we're not. We're not perfect, and so I think that's part of the reason why it's good to have a conversation.
Well, I think even the most brilliant people in the world, maybe they're brilliant at something, but they're always going to have, they're never going to not question some of the things that they don't know or not good at. Don't you think? Everybody's going to have questions about how they do things, or
Oh
at least they're going to research, but the best ways to do them.
yeah, and
So,
I'm talking about. I agree, and I'm
not that they
talking.
have it all figured out.
Yeah, well, but the thing that people haven't, the thing that's going to happen in the future that people don't see, and here's me doing prophecy, is that by participating in this way, the answers will be given to us. Like, we have a digital assistant called Alexa, and that digital assistant could be giving us the answers we need to the problems we face, such that the quality of our lives are enhanced.
That's already happening, though. You said it's going to happen in the future. It's already happening.
It is.
People have there's all kinds of information on the internet. We've gone to the internet many times for parenting stuff. If a kid falls, what do you do? If you know a kid puts soap in their mouth, what do you do? You know, if they're swallowing soap, what do you do?
Mm-hmm.
What do you do? My kid's tummy hurts. What is it? You know. So it's like it's happening. It's already happening.
Right. But
We go to
then,
the internet for all kinds of any kind of thing. You can go to the internet, but you have to sift through. You probably don't want to just read the first thing you read and then go with that. You gotta
right, it takes work, and
research.
but everything you read on the internet is perfect. Is right. It's right because I read it on the internet. That's kind of a meme,
I
right?
mean, I solved your magnesium. I feel like I solved your magnesium problem by going to the internet. But
Well,
I didn't just go to the first thing.
well, we
I
could
just.
talk about that too.
But I'm just saying, you can go to the internet for anything, and you can say, okay, those seem to line up with these symptoms, or this situation, and let's try it out.
Right. Well, there are things that are unique to the child, and when I say child, I mean we're all God's children, and so, but our child, we have three children, they're all different, and so one will face a problem that the other one doesn't face, and then there's some problems that seem so unique that it's hard to actually find an answer. you know, uh, there's obviously, like, you could call it medicine, you could call it you could call it whatever, but it's like our modern whatever, maybe it's medicine, isn't able to provide the answers to all the challenges and problems that we face. We can't find all the answers. We don't have access to all the answers. So, part of this talking and sharing is a good way to talk about the problems where we don't know the answers. Maybe We could talk about the problems that we do know the answers, and that would be helpful. Do you know the answers to anything? Magnesium.
No, I don't.
Magnesium may help if you have arrhythmia, right?
Oh, a lot of things, but um, I think that the online communities are also good to go to because you realize that you're not alone. There's other people with these situations, whatever it is. I think that is a positive thing about online communities, but also in person communities. I mean, you can meet people who have the, like, I have kidney stones, and I've met somebody in person who had kidney stones, and you could talk forever about kidney stones, and it's kind of nice knowing that you're not the only one with kidney stones. you know,
Right.
so in person, I mean, it's the same thing. It's you're having conversations with people who have the same things you have or have the same situations you have, and it makes life a little bit, I don't know, more relaxing or calm, or you feel better because you're not alone.
Yeah. That's what Mr. Griswold, he has a thing that says VNA, virtually not alone.
Yeah.
The which you know, some people have social anxiety. There's reasons why people are alone, and that these online communities end up being a way for people who have social anxiety. Like I think that we kind of do.
I don't. I mean, yeah, I don't. Um, my personality type is that I don't really. Um, how do I say this without like? Um,
Well, we don't go to church.
well, no, not just that. My personality type is that I don't really like to be around a lot of people, and that the people I interact with, I have to. It's like I have a few good friends versus a lot of okay friends. I don't know how to say it. I just don't. I don't find worth in a
You
lot
would
of being around a lot of people.
you would prefer to have like very few meaningful relationships as opposed to a lot of relationships that aren't meaningful.
Right. But my online community, homeschool communities, and teaching communities I'm a part of, I'm not like great friends with these people, but we learn from each other.
Here's something that you know something about:
What?
breastfeeding.
Uh, why would you jump into this?
I mean, just the because you've mentioned that one day you might be like a consultant or something. That's something you had said that you might be interested in. And the idea is that sometimes people go through something that they've never gone through before, and but you've already gone through it, and so you can be of service because you kind of know what they're going through. And I think of people. Maybe there's a person out there that comes to mind who's an alcoholic who could be, help other people, online even, or maybe there's someone out there who is bipolar who can help other people online. And I think that's what these online communities allow you to do is it allows you to, as someone who has had an experience and learned from it, you can help people who are having a similar experience
Yeah.
because someone was there
And
to help you to some
oh, I
degree.
know, and that's just by chance, I guess. The lady at the first lactation consultant at the hospital that our first son was born at. She's the one that gave me all the information, and I could text her anytime I wanted to, and that was really helpful.
That's just a funny phrase, lactation consultant.
That's what she is.
Right, but it's like you could call it like a breastfeed guru. You could come up with kind of all kinds of names for it, but it sounds very technical when you say lactation consultant.
That's what they call them.
But yeah, so I think that's another reason why these online communities are can be good. So you would walk away from your interaction with these communities and you would come away with knowledge that you can use that's
Well,
useful and practical.
I think think the most, because there's tons of articles out there that you could read about I mean, just going along the breastfeeding, there's tons of articles you could read, but having a person that can answer a question immediately when you're going through that, instead of having to search through all these articles and is this it, is this it, like actually having a person, you say this is what's happening, what do I do, and then answering immediately is, I think that's more helpful than like, of course, like the articles are gonna be helpful, but if you need to answer immediately,
Yeah, I can.
that's where I thought that I could be of help to other people somehow. I mean,
Yeah.
I've had lots of family and friends text text me, what do I do here? What do I do here about breastfeeding? I've had lots of
Yeah.
people.
What was the most painful thing you experienced?
What?
A clogged milk duct?
No, mastitis.
Mastitis,
Yeah.
which results from a clogged milk duct.
Well, it could be that, or it could be a bacterial infection.
Yeah. So, Kim was out. She was.
I would like to calculate all the hours that I spent breastfeeding 3 children. It's a lot.
Yeah.
And I say I've been through it all, but I know there's some things I probably have never experienced that some other mamas have experienced.
Yeah.
But I have a wide variety of
Yeah, but if you had
knowledge.
If you had a network of people who were experts, if there was something that someone is going through that you hadn't experienced, you might be able to connect. In my software engineering world, I would call it the subject matter expert. So you become a bridge to connect the subject matter expert with the person who needs the expert,
Yeah.
right? And the expert is the person who has gone through the experience. It's not the person who read a book about it.
No.
We've run into people who have just read books about things and they think they are experts, but they aren't.
Oh. I don't want to talk about other people.
Well, that's the risk of these communities, is that you end up with a lot of people who do a lot of reading and they don't actually know what they're talking about.
I know. It reminds me of this prenatal yoga instructor that I had, and she went on to be a doula, but she had never been pregnant. She had never gone through childbirth, a natural childbirth, or anything. So to me, I don't want to say she doesn't have anything she could offer, but I feel like in order to speak and do that kind of work, you have to have gone through it.
It's helpful. It's a beneficial experience.
It's really easy talking about natural childbirth. And, oh, you're going to be okay. Let me rub you right here or whatever it is. Versus, like, you actually have gone through it and you know the pain or you know the positions or you know the whatever.
Maybe the subject. So the full experience pain awareness. I feel like real life and maybe her experience of pain would be different than another female's experience of pain.
Yeah, so like I'm sure her training was that like if you do these positions, these are the most comfortable, or whatever it is. I'm sure she has some knowledge to offer, but at the
Better
same
than
time,
having nobody, maybe, right?
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, she's actually been in. She's helped her us and these. You're a who's ever even been in a situation. It might be beneficial to have someone who's helped deliver 1,000 babies.
I know. I just feel like you need the experience to really be at the top.
I mean,
of your profession.
Yeah, this is called Mary's Room Thought Experiment. It's like you don't actually know what childbirth is like until you've actually done it. And the Mary Thought Experiment is she's black and white with a white V, and you see what the code looks like. Never know what the code looks like until she sees the code red. So always something more to learn through the experience. But the point is, there's a lot you can learn by reading, and then.
Okay, now we're talking about childbirth. I took childbirth class. Everything I learned was in.
With a lesson dream, giving birth, baby.
Well, it was one thing. Like I had to research. I took a break, so I had to just do my research and to understand the stages of labor, which are very helpful in knowing. And we watched tons of YouTube videos, and so I'm not saying that learning, reading books and watching videos and reading articles, that was really helpful for me. But then actually going through three different unmedicated births, you learn a whole bunch of stuff, though.
Man, I got really tired after that first birth. The thing is somehow we had an OBGYN who didn't have a lot of experience, and they propped you up with like your feet in the saddle. Yeah, she wasn't our choice, but she was the on-call. Because
She was new. She was brand new.
That is a possibility.
She probably never been through labor.
but that is a possibility when you're doing it naturally, is that you can't schedule it, right? It's not really scheduled. It could happen
Yeah.
at night and the weekends when the doctor's sleeping,
Yeah.
you know. So we're part of that. I mean, that there's these trade-offs. But I just wanted to say the position you were in, and that's the reason I was kind of joking. I said I was so tired, is because I was helping like hold your leg. Um, but and then the other two babies, you had a different position that you were in,
Mm-hmm.
and so like, and then even
Even with Clover and Becky, it was different.
right, and then so there's different positions that you were in. So you were kind of learning. There was some
Some
different
different nurses, though.
different nurses, different doctors, different facilities. One of the important things was the like you put it in your birth plan that you wanted to hold the baby. You want to do skin to skin, and
Mm-hmm.
by the time we had our second and third baby, it was just part of their standard operating procedures.
Yeah.
But I'd mentioned it's like maybe there's a difference from hospital to hospital.
Yeah.
Like each hospital has different standard operating procedures. So
I think my point though was is that you can learn a lot by reading and watching videos and stuff. That's one part of it, but I think the experience is the other part of it. You learn a whole new things. Yeah, there's things that you learn before you have the experience, and then you have the experience, and then you learn a lot more things, and you validate some of the things that you learned.
and and then my thing is I'm a systems thinker, and when we were going through this, I was thinking about what are the proper ways of delivering babies, and so
There's all different ways to deliver babies.
yeah, but everybody like a lot of the people who are live in fear, and we ended up going to a hospital, but they're
Well, we live in Alabama, so you can't
well,
really.
you didn't really like the idea of giving birth to the baby out in the parking lot and only going into the hospital if we needed them.
It's Gavin's idea.
This was a idea. Another idea is that you go to a different state. Another idea is like, well, how would you build the proper facility to give birth to babies?
People
Um,
do it. It's been
right,
interesting to be able to give birth in different, situations or places.
right. And then the thing that comes healthy, like you watched your diet, you exercise, you were walking, like even you're walking miles on the day before you give birth. So you know, some people are at higher risk than other people of needing some type of intervention or emergency procedures. So, you know, there's all kinds of things connected to that process. Anyways, I like the system thinking. I like the processes and procedures and the protocols, and I like all that.
Mm-hmm.
But let's see how much we've been recording. We've been recording for, this doesn't tell me, 49 minutes? Yeah, 49 minutes. So I think that's good. How would you feel about sharing this with people?
The question.
The
Gavin's
question.
been trying to get me to record conversations with him and
Well,
share for a really long
we
time.
tried the coffee. Right now we're doing coffee. This is mornings.
With Kim and Gavin.
Actually, you remember how there's a coffee with Scott? We had this
Oh,
coffee with him.
I feel like we had it.
What's this with good? Somebody gonna do it. And one of the things I've just and proud because good idea. It turns out there's all kinds of people having a very similar idea at the same time. But you know, the more people who are doing the good idea, the more opportunity for um, that way of participating to have some type of an impact and a connection with other people. I mean, I don't know how many people. I don't think anyone has had a husband wife conversation in the Discord server.
What about the Weinstein and his wife?
Well, he's not a part of our community.
Oh, okay. Those are the only people that we've seen that's been a husband and a wife.
Well, are they? They're not. Like right now, we're sitting in bed with our coffee.
Uh-huh.
I don't think they do that.
Oh, well, they may. They
They
just may
have a
not.
studio. They have their glasses on. They have preparation. Their son is over there like clicking buttons, and they've got it's a family event, which is cool. Um, but it's really they prepare for it, and they talk about the things that they are like. They have prepared the topics beforehand,
Yeah, there's like a agenda.
which you're a fan of agendas
I
and things
am.
like that.
I am.
I
Well, because okay, so you can talk forever about just random things, but then It's like, what do you want if you're gonna share this? What do you want your viewer to take away from this? There was a this is kind of a random conversation.
It is. But what you could
Is
do is,
somebody gonna find worth in this? I don't know.
well, I think that,
I don't have time to listen to an hour conversation about random things. You can, you can, I guess, underneath the video say these are the things we talked about, but we really didn't dive deep into any of them.
well, that's one thing. So we are busy people, and our ability to go back and kind of curate. I got that word from Eric Weinstein. I get to like say his name because he appreciated that I had curated something for him, and so that curation process is um, something where other people can help participate as well, right? So we don't have to go, like, ideally we would do a recording and you would be able to take snips of this and organize them by topics, all of these clips, and then um, they could begin a conversation or a sub community or a sub Reddit or, whatever. And we don't have to do that work. If it was important work and people wanted, and they thought it was important, and they wanted to have a more meaningful life and want to find a way to participate, then people, by us just doing this and not putting forth 100% of our time and attention, other people have the opportunity to help. I know that sounds arrogant, but it's also, to me it sounds arrogant because I was raised to be an individualist who doesn't ask other people for help.
Well, I think one of the reasons, and I keep going back to Instagram stories, and I'm probably like really old school in this social media platform, but um, you can take little snippets, you know, recordings, and you can post your story. So, and then you can the viewer can flip through the stories. They can take what they want, and they can pass over what they don't want, and it's just a really easy way to. I don't know. It's a really easy way to view somebody's conversation like this would be. Here's our conversation, and what are you gonna? I mean,
Yeah.
what would the viewer do? They just like
Well,
go through it. I think I would maybe get bored
well,
listening to us.
you might, but other people might not.
Okay.
That you know things that other people don't know.
I
This
could
is,
talk forever about the things that I enjoy.
and this is where I'll kind of try to end it with in general, like the way, like I can see the possible futures, and there's a possible future where we send this to, for example, Randos United. We send it to Nolan with sorting myself out. These are the example here, or the pattern here is there is a YouTube channel that is the face of a community of people, a team of people who do work. And then when they receive the recording, they can, for example, put out the raw material in some way. It could go to a Google Drive, it could go to YouTube, and there can be a team effort to create a description that is able to point at all the different networks. And one of those networks could be, even though I don't use it, you use it, Instagram stories. And so you can end up with teams of people who take the source material and make sure it gets distributed in the proper way, such that teams of people can then curate out of that in the proper way. So that, and this is essentially, and here's the thing that I had the revelation about, is when people start doing these things in the proper way, the signals amongst all the information on the internet can kind of rise to the surface. They can be tagged and labeled and connected with people who could use those signals, because there are machine learning models who are learning about you as an individual, and they can say, "Oh, here's someone who is about to go through childbirth and they may like Kim, and Kim is connected with, however many other people who have this experience with childbirth, and maybe there's the person who has the best experience with childbirth, that by following a rabbit trail they end up at the right place, to receive the information they need at that point in time." And so there is this way of participating on the internet in order to, though I think it's the creation of the sense making organ by which each individual is able to receive help in making sense of the world and solving the problems and addressing the challenges that they face as individuals. We're so disconnected throughout our history, but now we have this opportunity to become increasingly connected. Uh, Not necessarily where we develop relationships with other people. Like you and I, we don't necessarily have time to do that right now in our lives to develop meaningful relationships with other people, but we can at least help develop this sense making organ by which people can receive the most important information for them at their point in time and space with their unique set of struggles that they're facing. And it's that's the dream, that's the hope, that's the prophecy. And I think it will happen. It'll happen whether we send this to Randos United and whether Randos United has a team of people that's able to put this out on multiple networks and, you know, whatever. I think it's going to happen. People are going to do this. It's a pattern that's good, and people will see the pattern and begin to participate and organize around this good pattern.
Love you.
I love you.